The soil beneath your feet might be the most overlooked story in your garden, and today we're uncovering one of its most powerful secrets. If you've ever felt frustrated watching your plants struggle despite doing everything right, you're not alone. Across backyards, balconies, and small farms, growers are discovering that the problem isn't always what they're adding to their plants. It's what's missing deep within the soil itself. And what if the solution wasn't expensive, complicated, or locked behind specialty products? What if it was sitting quietly on a grocery store shelf the whole time? Stay with me, because what you're about to learn could completely change how you approach soil, growth, and long-term fertility. Before we go any further, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who's tired of struggling with poor soil, drop a comment about your gardening challenges, and subscribe to Garden Smart so you don't miss what comes next. Now let's get straight into it. Many gardeners are caught in a cycle that feels productive but leads nowhere. Watering schedules are followed, fertilizers are applied, plants respond quickly, pushing out green growth that looks promising. But beneath that surface, something is quietly declining. The soil begins to lose structure, it compacts, it dries out too fast or holds too much water. Over time, it becomes dependent rather than resilient. The issue isn't effort, it's direction. Healthy soil is not just a medium that holds roots in place. It's a living system filled with microorganisms that break down organic matter, cycle nutrients, and support plant health from below. When that biological network weakens, the entire system starts to collapse, no matter how much you feed from the top. So this is where unsulfured blackstrap molasses enters the picture, not as a fertilizer in the traditional sense, but honestly, more like a catalyst for life. Molasses does have trace minerals, but what really matters is that it provides a rich energy source for the beneficial microbes already present in your soil. Now, plants don't actually absorb molasses directly. Instead, the sugars in molasses feed bacteria and fungi, giving them the fuel they need to multiply and, get active again. And once that happens, those microbes start restoring natural processes, unlocking nutrients, improving soil texture, and rebuilding the ecosystem that plants totally rely on. It's not about forcing growth here. It's really about restarting the engine that makes growth possible in the first place. So, one of the most fascinating aspects of using molasses is just how quickly changes can begin. Within only a short period, you'll notice that microbial populations respond to the sudden availability of energy. Their activity really ramps up. Organic matter starts breaking down more efficiently, and the soil itself begins to shift. Gardeners often notice these subtle but super important signs. The soil smells richer and, more earthy. It actually becomes easier to work with. Moisture spreads out more evenly instead of just pooling or running off. These aren't just cosmetic changes. They're real indicators that life is, returning. The soil was never truly dead. It was just exhausted. Molasses simply gives it the push it needs to, recover. As microbial activity increases, another transformation often follows, the return of earthworms. These creatures respond quickly to improved conditions. When food becomes available and the environment stabilizes, they move upward through the soil. Their role is critical. Earthworms create channels that improve aeration and water movement. They break down organic matter and produce castings rich in nutrients and beneficial microbes. Their presence is not just encouraging, it's proof that the soil is becoming a functioning ecosystem again. This is where many gardeners go wrong. The excitement of early results can lead to over-application. but too much molasses can disrupt the balance you're trying to restore. So excess sugar can actually trigger an overwhelming microbial bloom. As bacteria multiply really rapidly, they end up consuming oxygen faster than it can be replenished. This creates these low oxygen conditions that actually stress plant roots and beneficial organisms alike. And you might notice the soil developing a kind of sour smell, and, honestly, plant growth can stall instead of improve. The key is moderation. Just 1 to 2 tablespoons of molasses per gallon of water is enough to stimulate activity without causing any imbalance. If you apply it every few weeks, it supports steady improvement rather than sudden disruption. Molasses works best when it's paired with living biology. Compost tea is honestly one of the most effective ways to introduce and multiply beneficial microbes. When compost is aerated in water, those organisms expand into a liquid form that can be applied evenly across the soil. So, adding just a little bit of molasses to this mixture, it actually provides immediate energy once it reaches the ground. The result is not just feeding the soil, it's really about populating it with active, thriving life. This combination, honestly, can dramatically improve soil structure, nutrient cycling, and overall plant health over time. And for those of you growing in pots, the same principles totally apply, just with a few adjustments. Containers are a bit more sensitive to temperature swings and moisture imbalances. Smaller volumes heat up quickly and lose stability, so you'll want to keep an eye on them. So using larger containers actually helps create a more buffered environment where microbial life can really establish itself. Proper drainage is, absolutely essential, but interestingly, common practices like adding gravel at the bottom often do more harm than good because they end up trapping water above it. A well-balanced soil mix, along with consistent feeding using compost or tea, and even the occasional molasses application, can totally transform container soil into a living system instead of just a temporary medium. What makes this approach powerful is not just the results, it's the mindset behind it. Instead of chasing quick fixes, you begin building a system that improves over time. The soil becomes more resilient, requiring less intervention and fewer external inputs. This is the difference between managing symptoms and restoring function. Once the foundation is strong, everything above it benefits. So here's the takeaway. Reviving your soil doesn't require expensive products or complicated systems. It starts with understanding what soil really needs: life, energy, and balance. A simple ingredient like blackstrap molasses can help spark that process. But the real transformation comes from supporting the entire ecosystem beneath your plants. If this opened your eyes to a new way of thinking about soil, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to Garden Smart, share this with someone who needs it, and let us know your experience in the comments. Your garden can change, and it can start sooner than you think.